Something feels off before anything actually happens. A room, a voice, a pause that lingers a second too long. Your body reacts before your mind does. A tightness in the chest, a subtle drop in energy, nothing dramatic, just a quiet shift. You don't know why it's there. You only know it wasn't there a moment ago. You try to ignore it. You keep listening. You stay present. But something inside you has already leaned forward. It's strange how tired you can feel without doing anything. No argument. No heavy conversation. Just being near someone. Sometimes it shows up later when you're alone. When the day is over, when the noise finally stops, you sit down and feel heavier than you should, not sad, not anxious, just weighed down by something that doesn't have a clear name. You replay moments not because they mattered, but because your body hasn't let them go yet. A look that passed too quickly. A tone that shifted. A silence that wasn't empty. But that's not the part most people notice. What they see is calm. Listening, patience. They assume you're fine. You might assume that too. You tell yourself it's just a long day, that everyone feels this way sometime, that it will pass if you get enough rest. And sometimes it does until it happens again. There's something quieter happening underneath all of this. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask permission. It happens in the space between words, in the moments when no one is asking for anything, when nothing appears to be exchanged. You don't reach out. You don't lean in. And yet something still moves through you. It's easy to miss because it feels normal, because it has always been there. You learned early how to stay aware, how to read a room without looking like you were trying, how to sense when something was wrong before anyone said it out loud. It wasn't a skill you practiced. It was something that happened naturally, like breathing quietly so no one would notice. You didn't think of it as sensitivity. It felt more like responsibility. If the mood shifted, you felt it. If tension appeared, your body adjusted. You became still when stillness was needed. That's where it starts to change. Because over time, your system stopped waiting for words. It stopped waiting for permission. It began responding to emotional movement on its own. You might notice it when someone walks into a room already carrying something. They don't say it. They don't show it. But your energy dips the moment they arrive. You might notice it when a conversation feels fine on the surface, but something underneath feels unsettled. Your shoulders tighten. Your breath gets shallow. You tell yourself you're imagining it, but your body doesn't agree. There's a quiet vigilance that never fully turns off, not because you're anxious, but because you're tuned in. Most people think connection happens through words, through sharing, through understanding, but there's another layer that rarely gets mentioned. It's the layer where emotions pass without being named, where moods travel without asking, where one nervous system brushes against another. You don't notice it at first because it feels like your own internal state. You assume the heaviness belongs to you, the restlessness, the sudden fatigue. You search for reasons. Hunger, sleep, stress, but none of them fully explain it. But that's not the part most people notice. What they notice is that you seem to change, quieter after certain interactions, more distant, less available. They might think you've lost interest, that something personal is going on. You might think that too. You withdraw not because you don't care, but because something inside you is saturated, like a sponge that hasn't been wrung out yet. There's a subtle grief in that, not dramatic, just there. You don't want to disconnect, you just need space. Space to remember what you actually feel, what belongs to you. But that distinction isn't always clear. You were never taught how to tell the difference. There's something quieter happening underneath all of this, something that doesn't show up in obvious ways. It shows up when you feel drained after being supportive without trying to be. When you carry emotions home that weren't yours to begin with, when your mood shifts and you don't know why. For a long time, you assume this is just how connection works. That closeness naturally costs something. You accept the weight as part of being present. But that's where it starts to change. Not suddenly, not all at once, just a small realization that forms slowly. It happens somewhere past the middle of things, after enough moments like this, after enough quiet exhaustion. You begin to notice a pattern. The heaviness doesn't come from speaking or listening or caring. It comes from absorbing, from taking in emotional states that were never offered directly, from mirroring feelings that were asked to be held. You don't do it on purpose. You don't even notice it happening. Your system reads emotional information the way skin reads temperature. Automatically, without effort. When someone is tense, your body tightens. When someone is sad, your energy lowers. When someone is unsettled, something inside you becomes alert. You don't decide to do this. It happens before thought. And because it happens so fast, it feels like it originates inside you, as if the mood is yours. This is the part that rarely gets named. You aren't just noticing emotions. You're taking them in. Not intellectually. Physically, your nervous system responds as if the emotion belongs there, as if it needs to be processed internally. So it stays until it dissolves on its own, or until something else distracts you. That's why rest doesn't always help. Why silence sometimes feels heavy instead of soothing. The emotional residue is still there, unsorted, unclaimed. But that's not the part most people notice. They notice your depth, your presence, your ability to sit with difficult things. They don't see the cost. You rarely show it anyway. You've learned how to carry it quietly, how to keep functioning, how to stay kind even when you're depleted. There's no drama in it, just accumulation. Over time, this creates a subtle distance inside you, not from others, from yourself, because it takes energy to constantly separate what you feel from what you've absorbed. And most days you don't have the space to do that, so you move through life slightly heavier than you need to be. Not broken, not overwhelmed, just carrying more than your share. When you finally notice this, it doesn't come as a shock. It feels familiar, almost obvious, like something you've known without words. The realization isn't loud. It doesn't fix anything. It just softens the confusion. You begin to see that the exhaustion wasn't a flaw. It wasn't weakness. It was sensitivity without boundaries you were never taught to draw, not boundaries in behavior, but boundaries in awareness. The understanding settles slowly. You don't rush it. You start to notice moments when your energy shifts the instant someone else's does. You notice how quickly your body reacts, and instead of judging it, you simply observe. That's where the weight begins to loosen, not because you're trying to change anything, but because you're no longer misnaming what's happening. The pace slows near the end of the day. Your thoughts become quieter. You don't feel fixed. You don't feel lighter in a dramatic way, just a little clearer. Clear enough to recognize when a feeling arrives from outside. Clear enough to pause before claiming it as your own. There's no conclusion here, no solution to apply, just an awareness that settles into the background. You move forward with it, not as protection, but as understanding. And that understanding doesn't ask you to harden. It doesn't ask you to disconnect. It simply allows you to notice when something passes through you. And sometimes noticing is enough.